Okay, if you're anything like me and you have one of these BowFlex Xtremes, the power rods over here tend to get worn out, and you can see how they're hanging almost at like a 30-degree angle, and the resistance just wears out over time. So I'm going to show you how to DIY fix these for a fraction of the cost. I'm going to start by tilting the machine forward like so, and I'm going to use a jack stand here to hold this thing up, just like that. And then underneath here, and then underneath this cartridge here, and this is like a cartridge that all of these plug into, there's three screws right up underneath here, on the bottom side here. Right up underneath there, there's three screws. You'll remove those three screws, it's just Phillips head screws, and then these will just slide out. Obviously you want to make sure that you're disconnected, you disconnect the hooks and all of that, but now take a look here. Okay. So those will just slide out like so. And then we'll take these into the shop and take them apart. Okay, so we've got this on the bench now, and I had to clean my bench off so that y'all didn't put me on blast for being a slob. But so I've pulled one of these out, and there's basically just a screw on the bottom that holds each one of these in. And when you pull it out, it's just this bottom half here isn't coated, but you can, let's see, I don't know if you'll be able to tell this or not, but we'll try. This portion right here is not coated with this rubber sleeve. This rubber sleeve is just rubber. And the rod inside is just a nylon rod. There's nothing special about it. Now it does have, right here on the end, see if I can get that to focus. Right there. It does have a slot cut in the end of it. And there's a screw hole right in the middle of that slot. So I'm gonna cut that out with a Dremel, and then we'll just drill a pilot hole for the screw. Now this end here is the end that was down inside the base. This end here was the end that had the hook on it with the 5. Tells you how many pounds it was. And it's just a screw going in just the same minus the slot on this side. So let me get these pulled out, and we'll see what we come up with. Look to be identical, screws are identical, but I will keep them separated just in case. And this here is where the DIY part of this comes in, because sure, you can just simply buy replacement rods from BowFlex for a very inflated price, but I ordered this stuff from McMaster Carr. And these should be exact replacements. These are nylon rods. I'll leave the part number down in the description below. But I paid a little bit extra for the black ones, but they do have white. But you have to understand that you won't have the rubber coating, which is perfectly fine with me. here's our different rods. Now, I got to get a slot cut in the end of this rod here. And so I'm going to use my bandsaw just because that's what I have readily available. So I'm just going to try and center that up as best I can and put a couple of slots in it. Here's how that turned out. A little bit of a messy cut, but this stuff here should peel away, and I can clean that up with a razor blade, or yeah, probably a razor blade. Let's see what we can find here. So I've cleaned this up a little bit. Get that to focus. Today, Junior. There we go. So I cleaned that up. I basically just ran a flathead screwdriver in there and just kind of broke that one sliver off. Now I just want to smooth out this top end here a little bit. I can do that with a razor blade. I don't know if this is going to be in focus or not, but surely you get the point. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's not hard at all. There we go. And all that does is it keeps the rod from rotating. So inside here, there's a slot in the bottom, and all that does is just let it sit down in there and stop, keeps it from rotating. So that's all you need. You can do this with a hacksaw, just make a couple of passes at it, and you'll be fine. Here are the cuts that I made, and you can see they don't necessarily have to be perfect. So the key to making these cuts is making sure that they're deep enough and wide enough. And you know, they're not very deep, but what I've been using is this block here, and I'll take the rod and stick it down in there, and if you just push and then turn it, you'll hear it click into place. Right there. That tells you that it's wide enough to go onto the groove, so you're good. I just did that for each one of those and cleaned them up. So I did mine on the bandsaw just because it's quicker, but I did screw up and ended up having to cut a piece off with a hacksaw, and I think it would be perfectly acceptable to mount these on the end of a workbench and make your cuts like so, and it probably wouldn't take very long at all. But now that I've got the cuts, I'm going to measure and get these cut to length to match the old ones, and we'll be right back. I just want to check and see if these are all the same size, and yes they are, so that'll actually make it pretty easy because I can just line the end up with the end of the workbench here and then make a mark on the table and use that as my reference. So like that, and then we'll just cut that off. see, it goes pretty quick. So, that there is a 2-length cut there, and we'll go on to the next one. All right, now I've got to get the holes drilled in these, and I think in order to do that, I'm going to use a 3/32 drill bit. And one more thing, just a second. All right, this guy here is a centering plate. I got it from Harbor Freight like a long time ago, and have never used it. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe now is a good time to use it. And we'll just, of course, that doesn't really hold it in there, does it? We'll just right in the middle. See what happens. I'm just going to eyeball it, but it should be fairly straightforward. Just like so. And then I flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Just take your time getting the drill bit centered. It should be fairly easy, fairly straightforward. And then I'll just throw them in there for the time being. I'm kind of resting the drill on the edge there, bringing the piece to it and centering it, and then bringing the drill up. Seems to net the best results. And now we have, let's see, what should we do first? I think I'm going to screw them into the block first. Just lay that over. And we're going to get these screws here. And we're just going to take this one by one. Start with this big one. I'm just going to put a little pressure on it and turn until it drops into that slot. And then we'll try and align this screw hole. What's nice about this is if you wanted to, you could just pop these plugs out and add 2 more of these big bars for an extra 100 pounds. So that's that. Now we just need to put the tops back on and go put it back on the machine. I'm going to have to open up this hole a little bit because these screws are flathead. They're flat at the tip, so they're not going into the pre-drilled hole very well. So I'll step up just a little bit in drill size. Just kind of open these holes up a little bit at the top, just to give that screw something to bite into. There we go. That's on the right, so we'll turn it to the right.